Gordon, I'm going to now ask you what I've been referring to in previous interviews as my rapid fire questions. Just give me your quick response. No need to think too hard about these, okay?
Okay.
When did you first know you wanted to be a lawyer?
When I struggled with chemistry in high school.
Do you have a favorite attorney to litigate against?
You know, I've really been fortunate to litigate a bunch against a really large number of great lawyers. And one of the things that's terrific about the class action practice, I think, is particularly at the highest level, there's a great deal of civility. I mean, people fight hard for their clients, but there's a great deal of civility within the practitioners. And so there are any one of a number of people that I'd put in that category: Steve Berman, Eric Kramer. There's sort of a long list of people that I just have a great deal of respect for.
That's great. What's the biggest change to the class action landscape in the last 5 years?
Well, clearly the Supreme Court's decisions in Walmart and Comcast have really changed the substance in many respects and the procedures in many respects. And clearly it's a way more evidentiary standard. I think trial skills are far more important in class action practice, in class certification determinations today than they ever were. And so I would say those are some of the most significant changes. I guess the other thing that's clearly had a big impact is the whole question of class action waivers in arbitration agreements. But the Supreme Court has been very, very active in this area, and it has changed the landscape to a significant extent.
Thanks. Is there any book that you have gifted more than another book in your career?
Yes. The book is actually called Killing Time, and it was written by a friend of mine by the name of John Holloway. And the book accounts the travails of a Louisiana death row inmate by the name of John Thompson, who, it turns out, is my client and my partner Michael Banks' client, and we were privileged enough to represent John in his 18-year odyssey from death row to freedom. And the book is the story of that matter, and I've gifted that book to a number of people.
Wow, that's cool. What was your least favorite law school class?
Tax.
Me too. What do you think the biggest growth area, maybe from a plaintiff's perspective, in class action law is? What kind of cases are we seeing more and more of?
Well, I think in some ways I think what we see from the plaintiff's bar in some ways mirrors the national agenda. And so you see a lot of litigation over food. Food is clearly a part of the national agenda. You see a lot of litigation in the class action space with regard to various issues relating to healthcare, and that mirrors the national agenda. Obviously, the financial service industry has been under regulatory pressure, has been under political pressure, has been under public pressure, and that's reflected in the docket as well. And so I think what you see often is a reflection of the national agenda when you look at the cases that the plaintiffs pursue in this area.
Which was the worst case for the plaintiff's bar? Carrera, Concepcion, or Dukes?
I think Concepcion has probably had the biggest impact simply because it has taken big chunks of class actions out of play. Yeah. Clearly, Dukes has elevated the standard considerably. But it certainly hasn't eliminated class actions. It's simply made class certification more difficult. And so the cases that are truly appropriate for class certification are still being filed and they're still being certified.
What do you believe to be the most worthy legal nonprofit?
Most worthy legal nonprofit? Well, I think one of the things the legal industry, the legal profession should be proud of is the extent to which we give back to the public in a variety of different ways, including through the staffing and funding and guidance we give to many nonprofits that serve the public interest. I'd really be reluctant to single any one agency out, but I think the patchwork and the safety net that's been created by the legal profession And again, funding, creating, staffing, leading a variety of nonprofits is part of the public function of lawyers that many folks outside the legal profession really don't understand.
I think you're right. Would you advise the next generation to go to law school?
I would advise them to go to law school if they're passionate about becoming a lawyer. The road to being successful in the legal profession, I think, is very difficult, and it is more difficult today than it ever was. But there is still a need for talented, dedicated, focused lawyers who are passionate about working with clients to solve problems. And there always will be a need for that. But people that decide to go to law school because they don't know what else they want to do and they might as well just do that, or decide they want to go and practice for a couple of years and then change careers, I think the profession has changed and the economy for lawyers has changed sufficiently that it doesn't make sense to do that. But I still think it's a great profession. I think it's a great profession for young people that have a passion for this, but it really ought to be reserved for people that have that passion.
So just piggybacking off that, if you had one kind of poignant piece of advice for a young lawyer today, what would that piece of advice be?
I think it's really to throw yourself into your work and to be the master of your own career. This is a hard profession, and it requires each person who's entering it to really take ownership of who they are and what they become, and to not just dabble or just put in time, but to really ferociously attack the problems on behalf of their clients, and to think about their own professional development and be the masters of their own careers.
Gordon, thank you so much for the candid and thoughtful responses.
My pleasure.
It's great.